The table was set for 12, mahogany polished to a shine, crystal glasses catching the golden light from the chandelier, and roast lamb sitting proudly in the center like a prize at the end of a long battle. It was supposed to be a celebratory dinner, family, laughter, toasts. Instead, it became the stage for a reckoning. Ethan Carter had spent the week planning it down to the minute. He stood at the head of the table, topping off wine glasses and smiling at small talk from his in-laws. On his right sat his wife, Danielle, glowing, social, charismatic. She always played the perfect hostess, and tonight she leaned into the role with extra flourish, perhaps trying to keep the cracks hidden behind her dazzling smile. Ethan knew. He had known for months. It started when he noticed the late-night texts, then the mysterious absences, and finally, the confession. Danielle had sat him down on their patio 2 months earlier, sipping white wine and speaking like someone pitching a business deal. "I think we should open a marriage," she'd said, her voice casual. "Just see other people. No secrets, full honesty." Ethan had stared at her for a long time, then nodded. But what she didn't know was that Ethan never slept with anyone else. He didn't go looking. Instead, he followed, quietly, methodically, documenting everything. Screenshots, audio, even photos. Then, 3 weeks ago, she came home from one of her yoga retreats, and something had changed. She was paler, quieter. She avoided intimacy. One night, he saw her crying in the bathroom. He checked her medical folder 2 nights later. STD positive. Chlamydia. He said nothing. Until tonight. Dinner was halfway through when Ethan stood and tapped his glass. "I'd like to make a toast," he said, raising his glass to the room. "To family, to truth, and to my beautiful wife." Danielle flushed and smiled. Her father beamed. Her sister clapped lightly. "And while we're all gathered here, I think it's a perfect time to share a journey Danielle and I have been on." Ethan continued, locking eyes with her. "We decided a while ago to open our marriage. Some of you may find that surprising. I certainly did." The table went silent. Danielle froze. But that's not all. Danielle was very enthusiastic about our new arrangement. So enthusiastic, in fact, that she recently contracted an STD from one of her many partners. The glass in her hand slipped and shattered on the floor. "Don't worry," Ethan said calmly. "I got tested. I'm clean because I never participated. I stayed faithful, even when she didn't. But that's okay. I've been documenting everything." He pulled a folder from under his chair and dropped it on the table. Pages spilled out, photos, emails, screenshots. Gasps followed. "And as of this morning, I filed for divorce. Full custody of Max. The house is already in my name." You see, Danielle didn't read the prenup closely. Danielle's mouth opened, then closed. Her father looked like he might be sick. Her mother whispered prayer. Ethan lifted his glass again. "To truth," he said, and took a long sip. Then he left the table, walked out the front door, and didn't look back. Revenge doesn't always come with shouting or violence. Sometimes it arrives in a suit with evidence and served right before dessert. Ethan didn't go far that night. Just a short drive to a hotel downtown, a place with clean sheets, dim lights, and no memories. He collapsed into bed not with triumph, but with something quieter. Exhaustion, relief, grief. Even after everything, part of him still mourned the woman he thought he'd married. Back at the house, chaos unfolded. Danielle tried to salvage the evening, but the silence from her family was louder than any shouting could have been. Her mother couldn't look her in the eye. Her sister gathered her kids and left without a word. And her father? He sat stiffly in his chair, glass still in hand, jaw tight, like he didn't know whether to cry or spit. Later, in the kitchen, Danielle tore open the folder Ethan had dropped. He hadn't lied. There were names, dates, hotel receipts, even screenshots of a group chat she thought was private. Some of the men were married. One of them, horrifically, was a client of Ethan's. Her stomach turned. But it wasn't just the exposure that gutted her. It was how clinical it all was. How calm he'd been. No drama. No shouting. Just precision. Ethan had become the surgeon, and she was a tumor he removed. And then came the next wave. Texts, calls. News travels fast in families, especially broken ones. Her boss called the next day and said the company had to reevaluate public-facing roles. Her gym membership was quietly canceled, and the man who had given her the STD, he ghosted her, blocking her on everything. Ethan, meanwhile, moved forward with surgical precision. His lawyer, already brief, had filed a divorce in full custody paperwork. The house, purchased before marriage, was his by law, and Danielle's infidelity, documented in full, left her little ground to stand on. Max, their 6-year-old son, didn't know much, but he felt the shift. Ethan made sure he kept things gentle. Calm routines, honest but age-appropriate answers. Mommy made some bad choices. Ethan said one evening, kneeling beside his son, "And we need to make sure you're safe and happy. That's my job." Max nodded slowly, hugging his stuffed dinosaur. Ethan hugged him back, holding tighter than usual. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized. Danielle had visitation rights, supervised for now. Ethan had the house, the custody, and peace. But the revenge? That was never really about destroying Danielle. It was about reclaiming dignity, about refusing to be the quiet victim of someone else's selfishness. She wanted freedom. He gave it to her, just not the kind she expected. 1 year later, Ethan stood on the same back patio where Danielle had pitched the open marriage. Only now, he wasn't holding a glass of wine. He was holding someone's hand. Her name was Julia, a counselor Max had been seeing. They took it slow. She understood scars. She respected silence. And when she laughed, it wasn't to cover guilt. It was real. Max's giggles echoed from the garden. Ethan smiled. Some dinners end in disaster, but some nights begin in healing. Ethan looked out at the setting sun as it dipped below the trees lining the backyard, the same backyard where just a year ago his world had imploded. Now it felt like something new, not perfect, not forgetful, but clean, quiet. Julia leaned against his shoulder. "You okay?" she asked gently. He nodded. "Yeah, I think I'm finally okay." From the garden, Max ran toward them, a daisy in his little hand. "For you, Daddy." Ethan crouched, took the flower, and scooped his son into a hug. "Thanks, bud. It's perfect." He looked at Julia, then at the house, his house, and smiled. Not because everything had gone according to plan, but because he had survived the storm, protected his son, and rebuilt what mattered. Some people seek revenge to hurt. Ethan had used it to heal. And now, as laughter replaced lies and love replaced betrayal, he knew one thing for certain. The best revenge isn't destruction. It's peace.